In a world filled with conflict, in a universe comprised of differences, there's one thing that absolutely everything shares in common. We all exist. Including two guys named Jack and Michael, who like to chat about that very thing over a good cup of coffee. Let's pay them a visit, shall we?
Existence Brewing.
Oh, the old Lang Tide. Or is it old Lang Syde? I can never...
Auld Lang Syne?
Yeah. How do you pronounce that?
I don't know. I always just phonetic. I just go for the phonetic version.
Well,
Auld Lang Syne?
Yeah, I guess it's the special of the day, so I guess it's a carryover from New Year's Eve.
Ooh, the special of the day.
Yeah.
Which is always what they couldn't get rid of the day before.
Yeah, it has cranberries and some of that stuffing from the previous week's special. So I think they called that one the kitchen sink.
So, of course, there's the big question. I believe yesterday, as we're recording this, was National Time to Take the Christmas Tree Day down day. But I'm wondering, and I suppose that in and of itself is a subject for, discussion.
What are you doing? You're playing with something.
Sorry, I've got a little box here and I have to close it. Otherwise, I'm going to go nuts because you know how you don't like an unclosed box to just, there you go. Okay.
Was that like
We're good.
An exchange that you needed to make or?
No, my licorice all sorts were in there. So yeah, licorice all sorts and snow caps. I have a sweet tooth. That's my vice, I suppose, and I have to control it. But lately it's been licorice all sorts and snow caps, neither of which my girlfriend had ever had, along with spumoni, and we discovered she liked 2 out of 3, spumoni and snow caps. Didn't care for the licorice all sorts, but they're an acquired taste.
Yeah.
If you like black licorice and you can think of like a creamy black licorice, that's what licorice all sorts tastes like. Plus they look awesome. So
yeah,
I
they do.
love the look of all sorts. Anyway, so taking the tree down thing.
Yeah.
Not a fan of the tradition of going and chopping down living things for ornamentation that is only temporary in your house. So I was over that a long time ago, or live or living. And what is that with the living Christmas tree too? I know this is kind of dated material at this point. Christmas is over, but what's with the living Christmas? If you have a live Christmas tree, you cut it down. It ain't fucking living anymore. It's dead.
It's dying. It's dead. Yeah.
You can't replant the tree. So it's just, but yeah. When do you take that down? I guess is a good question to start with.
If you want to know what happens in my house, it is the presents are not even cold yet, and the tree is out the door. My wife loves Christmas. She loves decorating for Christmas, but she also loves ridding our house of Christmas. Oh. And so she's one of those where it's out the door as soon as it's over.
The Christmas riddance. That's an interesting phenomenon. We're going to have to look into that more and find out. So you do get essentially a tree that was once alive then?
No, we have a fake tree and it's decorated with LEDs. You push a little button and it can go from white lights to colored lights to blinking lights to, oh my gosh, I'm in a rave and I feel like I'm on drugs lights. So there's all kinds of modes to this Christmas tree. But yeah, probably one of the best things my wife and I ever did. Those things are pricey.
Well, I, for one, I'm glad to know that you don't do the used to be alive Christmas tree because I've never been a fan of that. I dated a woman several years ago, and it was her annual tradition to go into not the woods, but there was this farm, and you go cut them down.
Yeah.
And I'll say she made me go with her because it sounds better. Of course, I could always be the abstention and not really bother anybody. She'd be like, all right, I don't give a shit. But yeah, so I went, and it was terrible. I mean, I could literally hear the tree as she took the first saw. I swear I could hear it just shrieking, like, why? I'm just sitting here doing nothing. I'm just growing, just hanging out, and you're taking me and you're going to have me up for all of a month and hang all this crap on me, and then I'm going to be thrown away in the garbage, or at the very least composted. But yeah, anyway, so prompts a different question, because I really don't care when people take their trees down. It doesn't matter to me. I don't get one. My favorite Christmas movie as a kid, not that I have favorite Christmas movies, but every holiday season, and I just showed this to my girlfriend too for the first time she'd seen it. It was called Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. It's a Muppet thing.
Never seen it.
In that, there's a little family of otters, or there's a mom. There's kind of like a widowed otter and the son. And the dad, they tell this story about how the dad used to go cut the Christmas branch. And I loved that story even as a kid. The story about the otter's dads was he used to go out every year and say he's going to bring home the biggest tree in the forest, and he could never bring himself to do it. So he just cut one branch and bring it home, and they had the Christmas branch. And I just think, what a beautiful thing, because that tree's not going to miss one branch. It'll grow it back. You don't have to hang a lot of shit from it. There's not a lot of room to make excuses to have to put more shit underneath it. So... yeah, this is one of Jack Hansen's long ways of getting around to when does pumpkin spice go the fuck away?
Well, I noticed today it wasn't on the menu. It wasn't on the menu, and I was actually kind of surprised because I expected pumpkin spice to stay on the menu for at least 6 months, kind of like the NFL season.
Oh my God, yeah, no kidding. I mean, it's not enough we have. Well, don't get me started on the NFL. Yeah, I think there's a big petition. I think there's an actual petition that's been launched in one capacity or another. Maybe it's one of these online, what do they call those things? I know there's GoFundMe's to raise money, crowdsourcing to make something happen, but then there's some other petition you can sign online. And I'm pretty sure there have been a few circulated to get pumpkin spice added to the Starbucks menu El Permanente. Like, I'm sure I can waltz in July and order a pumpkin spice latte, which, why not? I mean, when is it not a great season for gourd? It's just pumpkin spice is annoying because of the hype that's created over it. That's the problem with it. Like, I have no issues with the flavor itself. I don't particularly, it's not like it doesn't rise. It's not the shining star of flavors. If I'm going to get the rare instance anymore that I'm going to get a flavored coffee, pumpkin spice doesn't usually float to the top of the cream barrel. But do I care if it's on a menu in July? Not particularly, but it's the hype that surrounds everything that bothers me. And I don't like it because it's indicative of mindless zombie capitalist behavior. It's just complete materialism at its finest. It's just, it's like the Stanley Cup phenomenon, and not the NHL trophy that they pass around. It's this other Stanley Cup. We've talked about those too, but we hop from one mode of this insanity to the next, and I can't do the pumpkin spice because, like I said, didn't we come up with some other pumpkin spice flavors they still don't have, like the rectal pumpkin spice and the pumpkin spice flavored enemas and the...
I don't think that they would be flavors. I think it would be probably modes of ingesting said pumpkin spice. But, I would have to say that I'm more of probably, as far as artificial flavors go, as seasonal artificial flavors, I'd probably have to lean more towards like an eggnog latte versus a pumpkin spice latte, because I do really like pumpkin pie. And there's just something kind of, I don't know, I feel like you have to hold pumpkin pie in a whole nother category. You can't just add it to a latte flavor.
Well, as I think I've revealed so courageously on Existence Brewing in the past, I am a recovered, not recovering, but fully recovered Starbucks addict.
Mm-hmm.
And during the holidays, pumpkin spice was nothing compared to my favorite addiction of all time. And I swear, the old, when Obama said about the guy who baked pies at the White House, like, they put crack Nah. And everybody, I was just thinking to myself, wow, the times sure are changing, aren't they? They're chugging along when a U.S. president can literally say, something is like crack. We've gone from Nancy Reagan's just say no to our pies taste like crack. Everybody cracks up. It's in the audience. It's just like, oh my God, I don't know whether to laugh or cry right now. But no, I was a chestnut praline.
That's right. You had them set a few bottles aside every year, and you under the table you would buy on the wholesale black market the additional bottles.
And those things could go for like a whopping $50 or $60 a bottle, out of date. They could literally be past their expiration date. Of course, it's pure sugar, so I mean, it's going to stay good for a while. But that stuff was just insane. But Starbucks, I'm convinced, I filed Starbucks next to Taylor Swift, next to why does Martha Stewart still look 47 when she's 83? And she's dumping adrenochrome on herself 4 times a day. I filed Starbucks in that camp now because I'm absolutely convinced that Starbucks, maybe not all of their products, but they treat their coffee with something, and it's not okay. I don't know whether it's just as simple as what they put in like Coca-Cola and all of these other drinks. They soup them up with caffeine and stuff to make, give them addictive properties. And it's something just at one tier above that, or whether it's truly nefarious, whether it like fucks with your mind. That's where it got to with me. But that also might have been how I convinced myself to finally shake the habit too. Yeah. So it's hard to say which is true in my realm, but I'm convinced Starbucks they're doing something to that product.
Jack, they always say that the first step is acknowledging that there's a problem. And I think that's exactly what you did, is you'd acknowledged that the pralines had you under their thumb. And, there was another example of excess that I wanted to bring up, which is very similar to this, but it also kind of runs congruous to a lot of topics that we've brought up here on the podcast, which is how popular YouTube influencers have become. And did you see the article in the Seattle Times today about Genevieve's Playhouse family? They bought an $8.4 million home in Spokane Valley.
I don't know who that is, first of all. Genevieve who?
Genevieve's Playhouse. I have no idea. I didn't know who this person was either. I don't know who that is. But I've got a little clip for you right now. I'm gonna bring you up to speed on Genevieve, okay. And of course I didn't know who she was 5 minutes ago either. So here we go.
The Paw Patrol are spending the day relaxing.
Yahoo! So much fun!
Chase, Marshall, Rubble, and Rocky are playing at the fair. Sky and Zuma are playing video games.
Go, Sky, go!
Look at how many coins we're getting.
Watch out for those bricks. Jump!
Woo, I made it.
Even Romeo is spending the day inside, relaxing and watching TV.
World domination is such hard work. Time to watch the newest Genevieve's Playhouse video.
Hey guys, can you help me park these vehicles in this cool town we made? Oh no, what's happening to the colors?
Oh dear.
Come on, what are we gonna do? Maybe we can use my magic paintbrush to bring the colors back.
A magic paintbrush?
Okay, so just for the viewers at home that couldn't see what was going on this YouTube channel, imagine a man's hands playing with children's toys. And it was probably similar to what you would have experienced as a young boy when your favorite uncle came over or whatever, and he'd be playing with the characters. And so these children watch this channel. And it literally is this man. The man's voice that you heard was Genevieve's father, who produces. What do they call him? They have a term for him. It's toy-based learning is what they call these videos.
They call that learning. Yeah. What I just heard was learning.
Yeah, that is the sound of education.
I had no takeaway from that except a slight amount of fear and irritation. But
So this man just,
to be overly
I mean, this
snarky.
empire, this channel is estimated, and we all know our thoughts on net worth, but the net worth of this channel, which I'm sure is a corporation, is like $113 million. And they just bought an $8.4 million home. This video that I just pulled this from, I want to say it had almost 100 million views.
Wow.
And so, you know, like that is the level of influence that these influencers have, not only on children, but enough that you could buy an $8.4 million home, and obviously they're probably going to work it into their tax structure somehow, because I'm sure they're going to be using the home to be recording more shows. But yeah, I mean, there's probably network TV shows that don't have as many views as some of Genevieve's episodes here.
I don't know much about this, and I'm sort of still piecing together.
You want me to play it for you again?
No, please don't play it for me again. Please, no. When you were playing it, I wasn't quite getting apparently what this is, which reminds me of the scene in Spaceballs. You know, oh, your helmet is so big.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's
surprising that Jewish princesses are often attracted to people with money and power, and I have both, you know.
It's exactly what it is. It's Dark Helmet playing with figurines, and there is a close-up shot of them. And in some cases, I mean, this man probably had some kind of video background, because clearly there's like green screen going on, and these videos are not they're not the videos that Michael Elliott was making when he was 12 years old with the family camcorder doing start-stop animation. Okay, these are very advanced films. And I mean, $8.4 million. I mean, what does this sound like? Well, kids, today's word is mortgage.
Well,
We're going to learn about mortgages, kids. I mean, it's like $8.4 million is what this family has been able to afford by their virtue of their YouTube channel. And I'm not knocking it. I just find it very fascinating that there's that much viewership, and there's that many eyeballs glued to YouTube. And even just like this last week, I noticed that, you know, some of my viewing per day was in the hours of watching random videos. So, I mean, I'm just as guilty as consuming these videos. And a lot of these videos I know because of my kids watching similar videos, not necessarily this channel, but.
Yeah, taking nothing away from the creative endeavors of anybody. I appreciate you're not knocking it, but I'll knock it. I think we should have an episode that just comes right out and gets right to it. You know, I mean, you went down the let's teach kids the lesson of an $8.4 million mortgage. If your channel's worth over $100 million, I'm imagining you're probably dropping cash for this thing. And so I don't know what the characters' names. What are the characters' names in this again?
Well, they were using Paw Patrol, which is a kind of a franchise, right? So they're using franchise toys, which I think is a whole nother wrinkle that they probably had to work out with Nickelodeon. But they're using franchise toys within their channel that they're monetizing. So,
well, first of all, thank God. I'm guessing at least half the men in America, even though you're in the United States, even though they might be slowly awakening to the realities of existence like I am, are still, at least half dirty-minded. So Genevieve's Playhouse sounds like something that I would have been caught watching on Cinemax After Dark by my mother.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
To keep my hand off. It's like, look, I don't mind if you play with it, but this is too much today, kind of thing. Go back to bed. And I'll just make up the characters since I don't know any of these characters.
Would you like me to pot up the music for you?
Oh, you can do the music. The little background ambiance is fine, but I kind of think we need something like, whoa, if it isn't Blinky Bunny. Hi, Genevieve's dad. How are you? Are you still doing Genevieve's Playhouse? Yeah, yes, I am. As a matter of fact, it made me so much money I can get an $8.4 million home. We're moving in this weekend. Oh, well, you're an asshole, Genevieve's father. What an egregious piece of shit. I mean, who wants to start a channel for children and then make all that money? You're a dick. I'm out of here.
Oh, I know, right?
Should be the episode I'm thinking of, but yeah. I mean, whatever, if that's what you want. It seems to me like it's just such a trite ending to the whole thing. It's just like, here comes another American success story about somebody playing with dolls online. And instead of actually doing, I don't know what I expect people to do with this. Clearly it's touching lives, but a $9 million home, I'm going to skip it. Sounds like too much work for me. But of course, with a $100 million channel, you could probably hire maids. And if you've got Genevieve's Playhouse going for you, then, I mean, imagine those maid outfits, too.
Oh, that's terrible. Well, I mean, the influencer phenomenon has become, very marketable. There's toys. There are different, different marketing that I'm aware of just by virtue of my kids. I mean, there are toys that influencers promote and they sell to patrons of their site. And I mean, it's an industry for sure.
I think my greatest concern and really just the thing that perturbs me the most about the phenomenon is the term itself and how in some way it's not misplaced, but just how it's so obvious. I mean, it's almost to me like opening a shop that has meat hanging in the window. And instead of being one of those great creep show side features or back of the comic book thing where, I mean, some of the meat's actually humans that they literally just put up, they call it the cannibalia or something like that. Or what are those carnicerias, what they call those places that we have here with the Hispanic, the butchers and stuff. So they're like the cannabisaria or whatever they call. Of course, people think that was pot. Anyway, it's the term influencer has always really bothered me because it's like, okay, Jack Hansen, what are you doing on your channel? What are you doing on your podcast? What is Existence Brewing? You're wanting to be an influencer. Not really. I think the idea is just to exchange this crazy bit of stuff, these downloads and all this stuff
Absolutely.
That we encounter in waking life with a pal of mine who happens to be, on the same page in some ways and maybe even the opposite page in others, so we can actually sort some things out and sift through this stuff. I'm not really wanting to influence anybody. If what I happen to say through whatever universal workings that happens, and someone takes it to heart and they want to do something good with it, and dare I use the puke-inducing word empowering, but it's kind of true, that's wonderful. I think if people can be inspired, like ask a musician, are you an influencer? Ask any musician, are you an influencer? God help me if they say yes. They're going to say, look, I'm an artist. And I kind of feel like there's an artistic vein in almost everybody. And there's certainly a communicative aspect to absolutely everyone, because how do you get through life without at least learning to grunt to get a little bit of sheep's milk to survive? So, these things serve a function that vastly transcend influencing. And so the influencing bothers me because it's so just catalog consumer capitalism. It's just, well, I'm an influencer, so what I say people will do so I can get more shit from the sponsors that I have so I can continue to influence them. What are you wanting to influence them with? Anybody that truly wants to influence you I'm not sure that they have the best purpose in mind, even if they think they do. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of there's a lot of cults out there that really think they're spreading the gospel of something that's worthwhile. So they really want to influence you. But are they really doing the best thing when they kidnap you in the middle of the night and feed you Twinkies and Oreos for a month and a half and won't let you sleep?
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I brought it up, is because I kind of catch myself too sometimes really kind of when I'm watching some of this content on YouTube. So now Genevieve's Playhouse has 44.2 million subscribers. They have 659 videos. So, I mean, per subscriber, the ratio of subscriber to video. Now, granted, 10% of those are probably parents who forgot their passwords to YouTube, so they had to create another profile and then subscribe to Genevieve's Playhouse again and again and again and again and again because, the kids were like, Genevieve's. And they just wanted to, shut the kids up, because that's kind of also one of my points that I'm going to get to. But I even catch myself sometimes realizing that, anybody, including us, we can put content out there. And our whole purpose of this program and this podcast when we started it was not necessarily to, become celebrities or influencers or Kardashians or fill in the blank, but it was really just to kind of foster discussion about topics that we thought were important and things that hey, we enjoy each other's company, and these would be really cool things to get people talking about, and we don't really maybe think that a lot of people really think about some of these things a whole lot. And so it was kind of our way to inject into this sphere of community just kind of some alternative views, right? And part of me also kind of goes, okay, so like anybody can put content on here. How many people are actually going, okay, yeah, that guy just said that, and that's his opinion, but what do you think about it? Or are you just going to go along with what he said because he's an influencer?
Well, again, so the second question that I would ask in this influencer thing is, how then are celebrities and not influencers? Because we have been influenced by celebrities for decades now. We want to dress like them. We want to talk like them. We want to act like them. We want to look like them. We have people who impersonate them. We have people who make a living doing nothing more than impersonating someone who has already achieved some form of large-scale recognition or fame. So celebrities, prior to the ability to conduct, I guess, a commerce of dialogue online on this thing that we have, where anybody now can sit themselves in front of a mic, anybody can host their own show. And make no mistake, while I loathe the internet, and in particular social media, for what it has become in the terms of just human filth and the waste of time that it can propagate, I also think it's fantastic. I think it's our savior to have something that allows the world to be so connected and to be so communicative with each other in all of these different ways. But again, remember, anything we create, we have to shepherd in the proper direction. So it's up to us to do the right thing with the technology. And so hence, I'm not trying to be super righteous here, but really, I don't step in and say, I'm going to do a podcast. I want to influence people. That's not the trick at all. It's, I'd like to share some of the things that have been rattling through my cage for a while, or even just this week, or just this morning. That's pretty much all this podcast is just ideas and thoughts, and the notion of where they come from and why they get to us and what we are supposed to do when we have them. And, it's one part Kierkegaard and one part Seinfeld. And so, and to me, that's how I live my life. And so I think it's beautiful. But if you don't happen to think that, or if you don't want anything to do with it, the last thing I want to do is feel betrayed by the fact that I wasn't able to influence you. I mean, to me, that's just wrong. There's something about that that's just really mind-bogglingly narcissistic to think that you can influence. And a lot of these people are probably just doing the same thing. Maybe they're sharing their passion for playing with dolls when they're grown men in front of the camera, or any of these things. That's what I think the intended purpose is for. But a little bit of fame sneaks in, and certainly a lot of money. I mean, and to me, this is where, my little standoffish routine about the Genevieve's closet thing, or I'm calling it Genevieve's closet because it belongs in there. But that's where the problem comes in, isn't it? Is because how do you think Genevieve's, whatever it is, what'd you say, attic, or what is it now? I don't even remember.
Genevieve's Playhouse.
Genevieve's Playhouse. God, how I don't remember that. I'm sure that started innocently enough. Hey, I'm going to play with these dolls like I always do with my daughter Genevieve, but today we're going to film it and put it out there and see what happens. Well, what's happened is that it's created, as you said, this virtual empire. But now I wonder if Genevieve's Playhouse isn't becoming, like Genevieve's cesspool
or Genevieve's dad's job.
Yeah, I mean, and look, is there anything wrong with him being able to quit the factory and not get mesothelioma and have nothing to leave to his family? And, no, look, it's fine. But be really careful with fame and notoriety, especially in fame, obviously you're talking about large capacities, but lots of money, lots of fame, lots of notoriety, they're traps. I mean, there's really not much, in my opinion. I know I've never been famous. I know I've never been super wealthy individually. Like I told you earlier, I grew up with a lot of money, but the purse strings were held by my folks. But everything, I'm a pretty observant guy, as maybe I would hope people would think of me after having listened to the podcast for a while, if they have. I don't think there's a lot in that for you in the long run. And so those are things, the more there's got to be an old proverb somewhere that says something like this: the more things that come your way, hence the more people that you have relying on you to produce content or say the next thing that comes out of your mouth or play with the next dolls or the next feature, and all of the money that it makes you and all the material things that bring you, all of those things add up, the more responsibility that you're accruing and have to look after. And so if you're not tending to your flock and doing it responsibly, and it's going to get out of control on you really quickly. Look at how many people win the lottery. I think we've discussed this on the pod before too. Isn't it some alarming statistic? Like 60% of people who win the lottery or something like that go broke. They're bankrupt within so many years. I think that says it right there. You have to be pure in your intent. And I know Jack is huge on intent. I got a whole chapter on intent in the book that I'm waiting to write still. Your intent, it means everything. And so your intent when you go into these endeavors, if you're not carrying it forward, or if you find yourself in a place one day, it's episode 2500 of Existence Brewing, and it's coming to you from the tallest skyscraper in New York City, and the money's pouring in, and the houses are getting bigger, and the cars are, it's time to check yourself at the door quickly, because you've lost sight of what the original intent was. And intent can change and still be for the good, but it can't morph into something that is just, it's not progressive any longer for you or for any of the audience members. It's almost kind of like Howard Stern, love him or hate him, he's such a despicable person. I mean, I think I figured out that warship a long time ago about how to sink it. Howard Stern changed the world that we grew up in, vocationally speaking, you for your whole life, me for part of it, or for most of it anyway, which is radio. And he did it by doing the most innocent of things, which is getting rid of the guy who stands there and is completely fake the whole time. I mean, completely fake from start to finish. Hello, you're listening. I mean, he just became the guy that said the same things that all of us were thinking and talking about. And it was just normal. He changed an entire realm, Marconi's realm that had been invented and with us for over 50, 60 years. He changed with something like that overnight, which really kind of was a mistake. But then the next thing you know, once the empire is built and there's all this money and there's all this fame, Well, boy, isn't that when it changed. And I feel like what the Stern people did was went in the boardroom and said, look, first thing we got to do is get it off terrestrial radio, because we can't have the FCC hanging over our butts every time we say the word fuck, or we say, because we're getting bleeped 11,000 times a day anyway by then.
Well,
and then
one
the
could
other
argue
thing,
he was kind of like one of the first influencers.
well, yeah. And then the other thing we have to do is we have to make it as sleazy as possible. This show is going to have an absolute underpinning of nothing but pornographic sex. That's what the underpinnings of this show will be, because people literally, what's the one thing they can't get enough of besides food, besides copious amounts of drink? It's sex, period. It will sell all day long, no matter what. And I feel like that's the formula they fell back on, and they're still trying to ride today. So I think there are examples that you can look at in history where, you know, to me, Jefferson Airplane becoming Jefferson Starship becoming Starship, no matter how much you hated the 80s version,
Right.
isn't a bad thing, because I happen to have chills down my spine when I hear some Starship song. So even the corporate rocketeering that they did was good to some people's ears, and it made a difference in their lives. It brought them a chill. It brought them inspiration. But I don't think some things you can look at, you can say the same, that the original intent to just play music or be artistic or share thoughts and ideas morphs into something, and then suddenly it gets away. And I would bet you fame and money, both or one or the other, is behind. And really, can you have the fame without money? Not in our world. That's when it derails. So those are, you got to be really responsible with those things.
Well, and you know, you're looking at it from a very, I guess, responsible viewpoint. And I don't know that the audience, maybe I haven't really looked at it to that degree either, but I think that, you know, when you see like the amount of technology that's at our fingertips, the amount of information that we're living with daily, and the power that comes with that information, all I have to say is, yeah, you know, there's a lot of conveniences in that information and that entertainment, and being able to essentially curate your own network channel, essentially, right? And watch it for hours and hours and hours, and have all this new original content. But don't check your critical thinking at the door. And that's the thing that I'm extremely cognitive of when it comes to the UAP disclosure phenomenon that we've discussed, when it comes to, you know, any Joe that I run across on YouTube that I think has really cool videos and they're entertaining. I mean, yeah, there's some really cool eye candy there, but don't check your critical thinking at the door.
Well, and that goes back to, I think, an episode from many moons ago now on the podcast. I think we discussed critical thinking. I think it was one of the first things we talked about actually here on the show, was not losing that ability to make up your own mind. But I fear that in some of the people that I deal with, and then just shaping up like the way some people behave and their responses to things, that they don't really even have a clue that that person not only is there, but can even exist or not. I worry that we've gotten out of touch with the ability to be individualized so much that we're willing to set up a base camp in Disney or Taylor Swift, or, you know, and look, independently, even though I don't like those institutions, probably what I really don't like about hype and about popularity the most is the ripple effect that it has on people who, for whatever reason, are not acutely aware that they have the ability to say no to this, that they have the ability not to establish a bivouac at the base of Taylor Swift's. It's like, look, there's all these other kinds of musics. You know, you can go any way that you want to with music. Have you been exposed to it? Have you had an opportunity to, or is it just, and then to think that how much that's happened to me in a lifetime is also disturbing. It's frightening to me how little I honestly know about the world, because I've never been outside of North America before.
Yeah.
And it's one of the main reasons is because I'm deathly afraid of how you get to other continents. I hate to fly.
You don't like to be in a can flying at 33,000 feet with 200 other sickly people coughing and breathing the same air?
No, we were just talking at the salon today. Yes, I go to a salon to get my hair cut because I insist on having an actual, genuine relationship with my stylist who cuts my hair. We were talking about that in the salon today, is airplane rides and how unnatural it is to be, because your body doesn't know that you're in a seat. I mean, I think your body really is only truly aware of the fact that you are 35,000 feet above terra firma going 700 miles an hour straight forward. That isn't something that's supposed to be able to happen to you in an earthly sense. It's impossible unless you're a piece of ejecta from a volcano that you're standing on when it erupts, in which case you're going to be liquefied instantly anyway, so it's not going to matter much. I mean, yeah. So, and the other thing we were just talking about today, and I don't know how much it plugs into this equation of the influencer thing, but I think there's almost a static charge that exists around the subject that we've largely discussed so far. And that is the immersion in things that are unnatural from the time that you're born. Now, for you and me, this was true, but it was not nearly to the extent that it is now. Think about just exactly how bombarded a baby is from the moment it comes out, and even from before that time, if you want to get right down to it, by not only how filthy the air has become, not only how unsanitary the water is. And yeah, I know we still have clean water and clean enough air to drink or to breathe, but man, it is not like it used to be, not even close. And it's getting worse all the time, no matter what we do with carbon emissions. Think about all of the byproducts in the food system. I mean, again, it doesn't matter how très natural your eats are. They are loaded, littered with chemicals and things that are absolutely dreadful for your body that weren't even close to being there 120 years ago, pre-industrial revolution. They weren't there. So there's really nothing you can do in the basic facets of biologically staying vital that's good for you anymore. You can't breathe clean air. You can't swim or bathe or drink clean enough water. It's all got cesium in it too, from all the fucking nukes that we've set off. And I know there's only been 2 that have gone off in battle. Think about all the testing that was done. They've launched hundreds because they got to have their toys go boom somewhere in the desert. That stuff doesn't just stay in Nevada. It goes everywhere. You know that, right? I mean, so you can't drink anything. You can't eat anything. You can't breathe anything without there being a problem. Now let's get into all of the signals that are traipsing through your body right now, piercing every freaking node and every landscape of your physical design. Radio signals, television signals, and I'm not just talking the terrestrial ones that I grew up with, that you grew up with.
Yeah.
Internet signals.
You're talking like the
signals,
5G signals and things like that.
Satellite signals. There are maps that are done. You can see them online. People have done them. Visible maps. Of course, all these things are invisible. You can't see them.
Yeah.
But people have done maps about the average number of signals that you are subject to that are going through the air in a rural setting. It's frightening enough. Go to a metropolitan setting and toggle that. You'll see. So that immersion in this bombards the way that we are supposed to naturally exist. Our predisposition on Earth is immediately affected abnormally by even being here. And that is an unfair advantage from the start. And what prompted this conversation was a talk about how I take medication to try and level off anxiety disorder. My stylist takes medication to try and level off anxiety disorder. My girlfriend takes medication to try and level off anxiety disorder. What the fuck is happening? That's what's happening. That is what's happening. And we try to blame it on, well, all of the real things that have terrified us in our experience. We try to, PTSD. Yeah, those things are real too, but they're just piled on. So try to imagine the trauma that people experience that, leads them to these things on top of already being completely bombarded with an unnatural disposition from the get-go. You got yourself a society that's in real trouble. And it's no wonder that we're in full retreat when it comes to, like you're saying, our cognition. when it
Mhm.
comes to our sense of, hey, this doesn't make much sense to me, because there's an identifiable me in there to say I object to this, or I wholeheartedly agree with this guy. I'm going to allow him to influence me because I happen to think that he's a decent person because I've vetted him enough on my screen. That doesn't happen. Instead, we line up like drooling zombies to buy
Mhm.
the next set of swag that's coming out from fucking Genevieve's Playhouse. Genevieve's Playhouse has come out with a new t-shirt and it's $80. But look,
Oh,
it
man.
bleeds Hostess filling on the side or some fucking thing.
Now
Or
I know what to
I
get you
gotta
for your
have it.
birthday.
Well, I'm telling you, it's a diatribe that's worth having, another one for me, because it's
Yeah.
true. It goes back to that story about the kid doctor who prescribed me the pills so I could fly one day. And he's like, well, snobby little shit with his fucking degree from the University of Idaho or whatever on the wall. And he says, well, I have to write something down in order to get you the pills you need. I think I'll just put maladjustment disorder. It's like, yeah, you've been out there lately? Fucking A, I'm maladjusted. I'm a peace-loving citizen of the universe with a soul that's fully capable in his body. Yeah, I'm fucking maladjusted to this experience, you dumbass. How long have you been alive, kiddo? Where'd you get that degree from?
Did you call him Doogie? Did you call him Doogie Howser?
I didn't. I needed the pills too badly. I had to fly. I couldn't
Listen,
fuck with the
Doogie, just get out your pen and start scribbling.
Huh? Hi, Doogie. Oh, hi, Genevieve's father. Looks like you're in for your physical. Yes, I am. I think I mixed up the voices.
The word of the day is prostate. Make sure you get it checked and check it regularly.
Oh, boy.
Oh, good Lord.
Well, and the thing that I've been very interested in that topic as well, which is why are there such a huge spike in anxieties? I have been a victim of that. Also, all these food allergies. There are all these food allergies that people have. Have you noticed that as well?
it's not food. That's why, I mean, it's food, but it's just tainted. Look, you can't
Yeah.
see. Look, just do a little research about just one little byproduct of the many of one of the things that this great age of industry has brought us, and that would be cesium. Just look up cesium and how it's gotten into everything. And microplastics are a joke compared to the effects, the long-standing effects of cesium. Cesium is in every bee that pollinates a plant or flower on the planet. And therefore, the cesium gets into every plant or flower that's on the planet. And therefore, it gets into every kernel of food that we ingest. Our planet is contaminated. We have thoroughly contaminated the biosphere in a very brief amount of time, given 120 years of this industrial horseshit that we've pulled. And that's it. And the problem that we all have is that we're born into a reliance on it. I do not want, Jack Hansen, I do not want to seek an electric vehicle. First of all, because we have hydropower here in where we live, and so it makes even less sense. It's just like you live in an area where it's actually makes sense, because most of these cars that are electric getting plugged into a grid that's on a coal-fired power plant, like Dr. Greer talks about, it's counterintuitive. It makes no difference at all. The power is going to get used one way or another. The coal is going to have to fire off more often. The pollutants are going to go into the environment. But even I don't want an electric vehicle. Doesn't have enough range. I don't like the way they look. I don't like the power that they have. I don't want an electric vehicle. Maybe I need to start looking into this more, I guess. But at the moment, I want to be able to get into a car and know that I can drive from one coast to the other without stopping if I feel like it, because that's part of my lifestyle. And I can't find a charging station to do that with enough if I'm out in Timbuk hell in the middle of nowhere in Nebraska or whatever. They don't have them there. So, even it's a son of a bitch, because here comes the enlightened hypocrite again. One of my favorite characters, one of my original characters that I developed going into all of my work, I guess, if you could call it, in this field, is a guy called the enlightened hypocrite. And that is the guy who is just like me. And that's why I identify with the enlightened hypocrite so much, because he or she is, in fact, enlightened. They know the avenues of truth, or at least some of them have been illuminated. They see them, but they have a really hard time wanting to walk them because it's not convenient, because it means giving up something that I've been pacifying on for years, that I just won't personally sacrifice for the sake of something that's greater than me, or that I share with 8 billion other people. I won't give it up. And that is the root cause of all the problems that we have. We're never going to get anywhere unless enough of us can get on the same page to be able to push something forward for change. That's always the way it is. And right now, we're in limbo when it comes to most of these things, because a lot of us are willing to go only so far. And so maybe we'll switch from regular straws to paper straws. And so we save one turtle from getting one jammed up their nose, or one raccoon from getting speared with it and choking, or who knows what. But there aren't nearly enough of us to save the plight of, anything that might go wrong because of a plastic straw, for example. I mean, it's just, they're not dead. They're not a thing of the past just yet. And that's just one small convenience of the Industrial Revolution, a drinking straw. And it's such an innocuous thing. And you'd never think about it until you see those Facebook posts or those social media posts like you do about, I guess Yoplait deserves a certain barrage of, like they really deserve to get stoned for their yogurt cups, because apparently their yogurt cups are the perfect size for any raccoon's head to get stuck. Those conical shaped, those frustum. Yeah, they have those frustum shaped cups. And as far as I know, they haven't fucking changed them. They're still the same cups. And raccoons love to get their head stuck in there because they're perfect for that. And I think the people that are on the raccoon getting their head stuck committee have written them millions of times and said, will you please change your cup designs? Nope, not going to happen, because it's our signature cup design or whatever it is. See, we're not going to sacrifice it. Plus, they're all going to say they're dirty rodents anyway. They're just trash pandas, what they call them. So I don't know, Michael. It's not we all know it's not easy. But we got ourselves into this mess so quickly. And the we isn't the people that did it either. We're just influenced by the byproduct of their doings, of their dealings.
Right.
Somebody invented all that stuff, and then we pick up the baton. And I know there's a few things we're shunning and saying no to finally, but it isn't happening rapidly enough. And we aren't checking ourselves rapidly enough to say, what's really important? Well, what's really important is, again, what you've decided to value. And when you have no compunction, and when you have no pulse, critically minded pulse, like you're talking about, how are you expected to be able to make and discern a choice that would say, my family and my friends and my spirit life are more important to me than all this stuff? Because it's not. Because you haven't even been shown how to do that.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's all just K-cups in a landfill, right?
K-pods, yeah. I talk about something else I can't stand. What is this fascination with the Keurig? Like, when did that supersede the way coffee was fine? You had a paper filter, you scooped out a little bit of coffee, you put it in the filter, you poured the water over it. I don't know how many steps this erased, but now it's, I just stick a pod in the thing and push a button. Just say, yeah, but it's so much worse. It's so much worse.
Well,
and yet that's the prolific standard now, is the K-cup.
Eons from now, archaeologists like Jurassic Park are going to be with their little brushes going over the cities of our time, and they're going to get to one of these K-cups, and they're going to be like, by George, what did they use this for?
Well, I'll tell you this much too, in kind of buttoning all of this up. Yes, human beings, and I am definitely in one regard the greatest misanthrope you could meet, because human beings are despicable. We are irresponsible. We are not good stewards of ourselves, of our health, of our environment, of each other, of, all these things. Go on and on and on. You could make a giant list of cons when it comes to human beings. But what really, I don't know, throws me about all of that in turn is that I do feel, and this is why I also feel like the ETs have a specific and vested interest in our existence, is because at the same time, we are magical creatures. There is our ability to conduct love and our ability to really be the greatest shining beacons of light in the universe is incredible. I wouldn't be surprised to know that it was grander than most species out of the gate, than most things. There's something about the human vessel occupied by an intelligence or a soul that is able to resonate the brightest of light, the most brilliantine of shine. And yet we're just still fucking up because we're babies. We're still a very young species. But I know instinctively, spiritually, there's something that tells me that we are unique. And I don't think that we get anally probed as often as we have for the last 100 years or whatever by E.T. John that comes down. I think there's a reason why. They're fascinated with our ability to conduct whatever this magic is. And they want to know more about what that is. And so I don't think we have, I personally don't, I'm with Dr. Greer. I don't think they fondle us. I don't think they meddle with us. I don't think they molest us in that way. But if they do, I think it's for all of the right reasons. I think they're fascinated with how can we get in touch with this shit, because this is where it's at. Maybe picture like a pig, or I don't know what the metaphor. There's a metaphor sitting there, though. There's an example or a euphemism sitting there where it's the dirtiest, filthiest creature you can imagine. It's a rat, or it's a disease-carrying rat. It's a mosquito. Let's go even worse than that. It's a mosquito, because we really are just pests. We just carry disease and we spread just, the worst kind of scourge all over the planet. Tear down the rainforest, kill all the animals. I mean, we all do it in the name of, woohoo, party time. Now we got a football stadium that we can, build and dump all our money into. And, we can let the orphan children starve, but as long as there's Super Bowl 48, I'm fine, We do those things and we're responsible for them. But at the same time, we're just great. There's something about us that's fantastic. And I don't think that should be forgotten about. I think that should be remembered, because I think we feel pretty bad about ourselves most of the time. And if we'd actually remember that we have that capacity and those capabilities, we'd all do a lot better.
Yeah, somewhere in Jack Hansen's Starseed report card, it says, he's a really good soul, but he just doesn't apply himself.
That's pretty much literally I think that's just about every human being's report card of the day.
Yeah, right.
They are really good souls. They just don't apply themselves. And I think you could say that about even souls that don't appear to be too good, is they're not applying themselves at a very root level. We really can do so much better. It's a matter of wanting to try. I think it's, God forbid I use a sports metaphor, but it speaks to so many people. I kind of feel like a lot of people think that it's fourth down at the 50-yard line and we're already down 35 points midway through the fourth quarter. It ain't going to happen. We've lost this game. So we may as well just go out in the worst of ways. And I don't perceive that to be true. I think I've brought this up on the podcast before, but there's a really kind of underground 90s. It's not really a horror film, I wouldn't say, but it's got some like sort of horror-esque elements in it. It's called Highway to Hell. Rob Lowe's brother Chad stars in it with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the woman who played her on TV. I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but there's a guy in there who
Sarah
plays
Michelle Gellar.
Sarah Michelle Gellar. I think it's not. Who was the other one? The blonde. Didn't play her on TV. Must have played her in the movies. She was the blonde girl. Anyway, whatever. Her. Doesn't matter. There's a guy in that whose name I don't remember and probably never will unless I really set my mind to it. But he plays the devil. He does a really good job playing the devil. And there's a great line in that movie. Whoever wrote the movie doesn't get enough credit because it's just sort of this campy, low-budget horror film. But he's playing the devil, and he's the antagonist, and the protagonist is in his presence. And he's got him sort of, tied up and bound, and things aren't looking good for our hero. And he's going on his speech, which the devil so often is one to do in these movies, as is the hero, but it's his turn. And he's talking about the slow and trudging demise of humanity. And as I recall, I may be paraphrasing, but he says something to the effect of, you all think, meaning humans, that you're going to go up in some blaze of glory, referring to some big boom, some big bang, some asteroid's going to hit you from left field and you're all going to go out with this big bang, or some super volcano is going to tear open and you're all going to just go out with this big explosion of fireworks that you love so much. He turns to him and says, no. He says, I'm afraid human beings will be around for a very long time. And just in that note, he encapsulates just how long of a journey we may very well have in front of us, and how much pain and suffering is on the table and therefore is avoidable if we just do the simplest of things to rectify it for ourselves and for each other, and then thereby for the world around us. I love that line. It's one of my favorite lines in a movie. I mean, I was watching that one night. I couldn't sleep, flipping on the channels. I'm like, oh, look at this, Highway to Hell. I've seen Highway to Heaven. I don't prefer the Michael Landon version. I'm giving this a try. And I was just blown away by that one part. I was just like, wow, that is fantastic writing, because that shows somebody that's really thinking about what is more likely the inevitability. Yes, we know Cascadia is going to have its megathrust earthquake. Yes, we know that volcanoes will erupt. Yes, we know there will be another super volcano, another big asteroid at some point. But we may very well have a long interim before that happens and blows us all to smithereens. What then? And I really do feel like we have some kind of a savior complex that follows us around in that regard. Because I also feel like that's one of the things that, I don't want to piss anybody off or offend them, but, the religious aspect of having a savior is dangerous for a lot of people, because I feel like it gives license to not do right by the planet, at least, if not by oneself or others while they're here, because somebody's coming to rescue me anyway.
Somebody's going to take care of that, right? They've got that side of things.
Yeah. And I don't think that's necessarily true. Would it surprise me? No. But I would also like to think that Jesus is a forgiving enough guy, and that his dad is certainly like way up there in sainthood, that I'm going to be okay. I'd just be like, well, hey, I'm sorry about never giving my whole life to your son and stuff like that. But are we good? Because, I've tried my best here. And it's like, oh, okay, kiddo, you're fine. You get it. But you still have to go through the rapture, goddamn. I was like, oh, okay. Or me, damn it. Right? That's what he said.
And then you do have to watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer at least one more time.
Sometimes when your hopes have all been shattered, there's nowhere to turn. You wonder how you keep going.
And that's why Puerto Ricans clap when an airplane lands. Did you know that?
No, but I have a whole new respect for the Puerto Rican culture, if that's the case.
It's to celebrate the returning home after a long journey.
I would think they'd be celebrating the end of something wholly unnatural to the human body en masse, or small mass.
Well, that too. Well, Jack Hansen, until we meet again.
Alrighty, you behave yourself.
Well, It looks like Jack and Michael have finished up their latest chat about all things existence. But if anything they said got your own existence brewing, be sure and catch their other talks at existencebrewing.com and drop them an email to share your thoughts using contact@existencebrewing.com.
Existence Brewing.